This is RuggaMatrix episode 186, Green Machine. Hello and welcome to the world's most quoted rugby podcast. And yes, this week it's all about Ireland winning the Six Nations, and the defence coach guru, Les Kiss, gives us plenty of time. It's all ahead on RuggaMatrix 186. As always, RuggaMatrix is brought to you by Strike, Australia's leading provider of Bluetooth car kits and other handheld devices. Make sure you get your cradle today. If you get caught, it could cost you big time. Strike.com.au will give you 10% off if you enter the code RuggaMatrix on checkout. So make sure you look after your driving today. Check out strike.com.au. RuggaMatrix also brought to you by mybean.com.au. Coffee direct from the roaster to you, and they sell at roasters' prices. Hello and welcome to RuggaMatrix International, episode 186, and it is called Green Machine for a very good reason, because Ireland were like a machine in Six Nations 2014. I'm your host, Juro San, and this fella over here to my left is Mark Cashman. Cash Cow, good to see you.
Yes, Bronk, listen, St Patrick's Day, lots of green about and lots of reason to celebrate. Six Nations champions once again, great stuff.
Absolutely, and you can see the guy over our shoulder and really appreciate his time always, but especially on this occasion. Les Kiss, you look fantastic in that Irish kit. Congratulations. Another Six Nations title for the defence coach of Ireland. Well done, mate.
Thank you, guys. Look, very pleasing, obviously, but it's been a tough Six Nations. England really put the pressure on to try and get those points up in their last game, and at one stage it looked like they were going to make us have to score a scoreline or win with a scoreline to take the championship. But as it turned out, it ended up with us just having to win. So it was a pure final, and I think it was a game that lived up to a lot of expectations, particularly France coming out and playing their best game of the tournament, which certainly made things difficult. But overall, very pleasing to pick up another Six Nations, that's for sure.
Les, Joe Schmidt, your new coach, seems to be getting a lot more out of this group. What is it about Joe's coaching that's sort of gelled so much with this particular group? And I've also noticed you've got, the depth that I know you've been working on in the background over a number of seasons is starting to come through.
Yeah, I think it's one thing having depth, I think, Casho. The other thing is having depth that's very competitive and actually can push, the top 15 and make these selections even more difficult. I think that's starting to really come through now in a lot more positions. Certainly some positions we would like to shore up a little bit more, but that's about the work we have to do. With our next series being the Argentinian tour, that gives us a chance to look at players between now and then to put their hands up and say they want to be part of the group and go away on tour. So, that's their opportunity to do that. Look, Joe's come in and done a fantastic job. He's new to the international scene. He's 8 tests old now, and I think he's done a fantastic job, to tell you the truth. He's got a great knowledge of the game. He's got a simple approach in terms of how he wants to play it, but there is a lot of demand on people getting things right at training and taking personal responsibility for their own contribution to the team. Some of the catch cries that we have would be about making sure whatever you do makes your teammate look better and helps him out, and creating that type of atmosphere and competitive edge in training is very important for us. But so there's no real secrets to it, and if there was, which there probably is, I'm not going to tell you anyway, guys.
No, but there's an edge about this Ireland team this year. I think you agree with me, Casho and Kissy, that maybe came because you got a new coach, but Les, the players have talked about it as well. You seem to be a lot more urgent, more aggressive. I don't know. Are we sort of looking at things that aren't there? Or is this side, did you sense that the side was a bit more urgent this year?
Yeah, I do think there was a feeling that the players felt the competitive pressure, if you want to put it that way, and with that competitive pressure, or that competitiveness, comes a desire to stay part of the larger or the main group, and then to be part of the bigger group, part of the 23, and then to be part of the 30, 32 man squad on a weekly basis. So by virtue of the demand that you have to have your detail right and know your stuff, and if you don't know it, make sure you learn it and find out about it and get your job done or your work done so you can perform well at training. Now, that pushes everyone to just be that little bit better on a daily basis. So I think that come through in terms of what people saw as our end product, which is the game. But a lot of those things are forged in training. The players' understanding of an attitude toward prepping well, not only in terms of their physical preparation, but also their technical and tactical preparation and their mental preparation. So the bringing things together in that way has taken some time. Joe, myself, and John Plumtree have only been in together for the last 9 months, but at this stage the progression's been quite good. We still feel there's a lot more we can do in a smarter fashion in terms of what you see on game day, but they're things that we need to work on, and when we review the game, as we have started already and are going through this week, and we'll finish it off this week, I'm sure we'll see a direction that we need to take in certain areas to make sure that we do step up and keep forging ahead, because you can't sit still for long in this competition or in Test Rugby, because teams will take you over before you know it, and it's important that we're seeing what we need to improve and make sure we get the right things done that make sure we do improve in those areas.
This championship, Les, this last couple of weeks has all been about Brian O'Driscoll finishing up. What a way to go out. Fantastic game. His last touch in Test Rugby led directly to a try that got you guys in front. And also, top it all off, I think he's the only Test player who's been mentioned by a United States president in the days before his retirement.
Yeah, fascinating, isn't it? It's I'm not sure if people really appreciate it if you're outside of Ireland, how huge he is here, and by virtue of being huge here and so many Irish connections around the world, he becomes a big name around the world. But in this country, he is massive. He is highly respected by people of all walks of life, in all demographics, and he is a hero here, and it fits him well, not only because of his ability in rugby, or in sport and in the world, but he's just a good person. He's a good bloke. He's a great family man. He does so much for a lot of good causes, and very much wants to connect and stay true to the people here, and does whatever he can when there's open days or signing autographs or photos just by random people coming up to him. He's always very generous with that, so he gives, and a guy that's worked as hard as he has and tried to improve his game right to his last game with us, and he will continue to do so with Leinster. He's got the rewards for it and he deserves it, and I know he's an extremely happy man to get a second Six Nations, and a guy of his calibre deserved it, and it will be sad to see him out of the green jersey, but from my part, it's been a pleasure to be probably, I think, about a part of about 50 of those tests that he's had, and a massive achievement that he's had.
It was a wonderful ending to a great career, wasn't it? And I thought significant too, Les, the tweet or the Instagram pic that he put up with the jersey hanging out for the very last time. Clearly, there was unfinished business for Brian O'Driscoll, wasn't there, following the Lions series? I think maybe many people in Ireland thought he was cheated out of his farewell. Some people say there's no room for sentiment when it comes to those occasions when he wasn't picked by Warren Gatlin in the final Lions test. So this clearly meant a lot to him. It also meant a lot to people of Ireland, and I think there's a lot of you say he's big in Ireland, but you know I can never forget when he tore us up in 2001 in the Lions series. I was in the coach's box with Rob McQueen, freaking out, and it was and Laurie Lawrence was in there too. By the way, that was interesting. The Australian swim coach.
Was that when you smashed that salad sandwich?
No, that was in the second Lions series where I was caught eating all these sandwiches. We were pretty nervous, but we won that game. So, and the series, of course. But I remember going way back. So he's big. He's not as big as Les Kiss is in Queensland. There's no doubt about that. But he's huge. And look at the amount of followers he's got online. And I think it's because he looks like a normal bloke.
Yeah. He is, and very humble person, and he goes about his business.
But he doesn't take any crap either.
No, he's a good man. He knows what he's about, that's for sure. And I didn't mean to suggest that no one knew him around the world.
I'm just going to say that.
Just to know.
Yeah, we were going to say.
Yeah, how huge he is enormous. It's phenomenal, and but he deserves it because he does it the right way. The amount of goodwill wishes he got from people all around the world, from Dan Carter right through to the President of the United States. Well, you couldn't ask for anything more amazing, I guess.
Well, he is Obama.
Yes.
But
look, Brian, even like Kissy, yeah. But he after the game, he was very. You could see he was so grateful for what he had achieved this time around, but also through his career and the amount of players that he had done it with, and the coaches he's worked with. He's very generous with his recognition of all that. So you're right. He's one of us. He's a good bloke, and well, some people say I'm a good bloke, and you, Bronk, you, Cashco, you always a good bloke. But the fact is, he is someone that people can relate to quite easily, and that makes him special.
Les, take us down to the dressing rooms after the game. Obviously a lot of celebrations down there, a lot of hugs, maybe even a few tears. Was it all directed in and around Brian?
Well, it's interesting. The previous week when we played Italy, there was a massive home game, obviously, and Brian's last test at home, and that was a massive occasion. He walked out to the ground with Sadie, his daughter, just on 1 year old, out into the middle of the pitch at the end, and I'd say only 100 or 200 people would have left the stadium at most. The stadium was absolutely full at the end of that, like 10 minutes after the game, and you wouldn't have seen much like it. But so he'd had a lot of emotional energy in that week, and there's been a lot said over the last 6 weeks about Brian's impending last time with the Irish jersey on. So it wasn't all bottled into one game, Casho. It sort of evolved over this campaign. People knew it was coming, but the last week leading into the French match, a few things said here and there around the press, but to tell you the truth, very little said during the week. Brian doesn't like it like that. He likes to just get on with business, but a few things were said just before the match, and about that amazing situation that we were going to see the last time him in a jersey of Irish colours. So there was a lot of emotion around it. The dressing room afterwards, there was more joy than anything at that stage, I think, Casho, and I'm sure in his quiet moments he may have shed a tear, but he didn't shed them openly in the dressing room. It was more about just enjoying and sharing the experience with his teammates. He's always reluctant to bring it back to him, but he also is, wise enough to understand there's going to be a lot said about what he's achieved. And even the after-match dinner, the French were very, very generous in terms of their praise and awarding him presenting him with a French icon, which is the cockerel, and it was quite funny. But most of the speeches that night were all centred around Brian's, last match. But it was also in the backdrop of a victory that he was very proud of, and also a victory. I think another 5 other players actually had their Six Nations, and there was a host of new guys who won their first trophy with Ireland. So there was a special occasion all around, and Brian wanted to make sure he shared their joy as well instead of making it only about himself, and that's just a measure of the man, really.
Yeah, he's a terrific guy, and I think the world game will be poorer with his departing. But life has to go on, Les, and I think the good thing about Ireland is I was saying on radio the other day that, hello everyone, look out for World Cup next year, because I think you guys are building nicely. If you can continue this upward swing, it'll be a mighty 4 Six Nations, then into the World Cup in 2015. I think the thing I like about the play is that you are now breaking the shackles, and you've got the fitness and the ability to play a game that's high tempo, the change it when you need to. I mean, you slugged it out with France the other day, but you destroyed Italy. I mean, those sorts of things, and you destroyed Wales. You've got the capability of a top 4 or 5 team now, which I think it puts you in a good position heading into England next year.
Yeah, and a lot of people will be talking about those things, Bronk, for sure, because they will talk about every international team in terms of their prospects going into the World Cup. And one thing we have learned is that current form doesn't guarantee future form. There's a lot of other things that must be done to ensure that you step in the right direction. And to tell you the truth, that's our focus. We're not long-term focused. We're very short-term focused and making sure we get the job done in front of us well, because we know that if we do that, we can tap into those situations that you just talked about, being able to turn up in big games and play a high-tempo game and come up against more physical teams, because most teams are bigger than us, but to be able to play smart enough to handle that and still forge a good game or a performance to try and get a win out of. So for us, it's important we don't think too far ahead, but we do know that we're trying to build a game and a style of game and a variation in our style of game that can meet any challenge, and that's our challenge going forward. And as I said, we're short-term focused. We're going to do a good review of this game this week and over the next fortnight, or even by the end of this week, we'll have reviewed the Six Nations and given feedback to the players, and then let them get back to their business in their provinces and come together later in the year when we go to Argentina. But that's the way we're talking about it from a coaching point of view, and that's where we'd like most of the conversations to be. But we do understand that there will be a lot of questions about next year's Six Nations and the World Cup coming up, and we just got to keep our head down and do our job, mate.
Les, always, one of the mental blocks, I suppose, one of the performance blocks with Ireland has been against Southern Hemisphere teams. Do you feel as though they're more capable of coping with what Southern Hemisphere teams throw your way?
Yeah, look, I think I've beaten the since I've been here. We've beaten the Springboks. We feel we can beat them. They beat us last time. I think we drew with them once. Australia we've beaten twice. They beat us well last time. We've also drawn with Australia. The ABs we came to within a whisker of getting that one, but we do know that's still a hurdle we need to overcome. Argentina, I know it's not a superpower or a big power in the Southern Hemisphere, but last time we played them, we beat them well. So, I think there are gradual improvements there, but I think it's about making sure you can actually deliver when you need to. And we get a chance to play South Africa and Australia in the Guinness Series in November. So that'll give us another chance to see how we're going against those big nations down south. And I don't think it's just them as Casho. It's about the Englands, the Welsh and the French in particular, who do have big teams. And by big teams, I don't just mean they're big playing numbers and big nations in terms of rugby, but the specimens they have in each of their positions are huge, and they're massive, and we're generally outsized against most teams we play, and which makes it even more phenomenal. Some of the success that these guys have had recently in the Six Nations, to be playing against, guys that are sometimes up to a stone heavier, and to still come up with great defence and good footwork and great attack and good set piece to be able to handle that and still stay in games the way we have and win them has been, they're a special group of players. So our challenge is always to be able to come up and meet those things, and that's what we're trying to do, is make sure that we can do that against all the big teams, mate.
It was incredibly tough, though, the Six Nations, wasn't it? I mean, it was in doubt right until the end. I mean, because of the enormous firepower you showed early on, you had a very good differential, points for and against, and it meant that you just had to beat France in the end. I mean, how hard is that? Because you never know what.
Well, we haven't beaten them there we've beaten them once in 42 years or something, and or 26 years, something like that. Anyway, but it was never going to be easy. I've been there lost there twice, drawn once. The last time we played them at home, we drew. I've been close. We beat them in the first year I was here, but that was home in the Grand Slam. But you don't beat France easily, particularly at home. I think in the last three Six Nations or 4 Six Nations, they've lost 3 times there at home. I mean, it's a tough place to win. So that's a first, for this current group of players, and in my time here anyway. So it was always going to be tough. But I think in terms of the Six Nations, the first 2 matches for us was crucial in terms of getting a good for and against. We started to stretch the distance there and put pressure on the other teams in terms of the competition board, and understanding that it could become important at the end of the competition. The loss to England was only 3 points, so there wasn't much give there, and the number we did on Italy to push our for and against out, it gave us a buffer, but it put the pressure on other teams to actually try and do something. And fair play to England. I think they've improved that aside under Lancaster, and they certainly pushed it all the way, as I said earlier, but we just couldn't quite nail it in the end, yielding a try against Italy. Sort of brought it back, and it gave us the opportunity that we were looking for, and that was just to win the last game. Obviously, if we'd beaten England earlier, there could have been a different equation at the back end of the season, whether we had to win or we could lose and still win the championship. All those things were possibilities, but as it was, we had to win the last one, and I hadn't done it before, and a lot of players, all bar one, that was Brian O'Driscoll, hadn't done it before in France. So it was nice to get a victory in that manner, and also in the manner they played. I've watched over the game 3 times now, and they did play very well. They pushed us all the way, and the fair play to our guys. We stood up and kept turning up and aiming up and got the money.
Les, the club landscape's changed a bit in Europe in recent days. Resolution, I believe, is just around the corner regarding Heineken Cup and European Cup. How has that left Ireland and their preparations to play Six Nations and ultimately Rugby World Cup next year?
Look, I think it's a fairly crucial part of the competition in the Northern Hemisphere here, particularly all the home nations, France, Italy, to have a flourishing European Cup. We've been through this in Australia a few times with with cricket and the Super League war in rugby league. These things can damage the game and hijack it for a couple of seasons before it does get back on track fully. We've seen that before, guys, but it seems like there's been a lot of good work that's been done underground or behind closed doors with key decision makers to pull this together. And the word is on the street that some resolution has been found in certain things. Maybe a couple little areas to get over, maybe to do with the key broadcasters, but they seem to be coming to the table and trying to find some ground that they can all win. And if they can find a win-win solution, and that's going to be great, because for not only for ourselves but also for all the nations here, to have a good European Cup does help our preparation going into Test matches, and the Six Nations. It helps the Six Nations. So overall, it'd be nice to see something fully announced very shortly to ensure that the confidence in our game stays at the level that it is, and we can have a really good European Cup next year, whatever guise it's in, and that can lead into a good Six Nations and leads into a World Cup here in the Northern Hemisphere, because the last thing you'd want is a World Cup in England and a lot of turmoil in the domestic game. That would be terrible. So it does sound like it's going to be sorted out, which is fantastic.
Les, we certainly do hope that gets sorted out. But when you look at what you've achieved with this group of players, Brian O'Driscoll moves on to greater and greener pastures. But when you look ahead, what was the message from the coaching staff to this group of players heading forward?
The key message, which is it's not only a spoken word, it's been a day in, day out message, is that your work. How do you put this? I guess more than anything, every day matters. In your prep, what you do on a daily basis becomes your habits, and if you're working smart and you're doing the right things, listening to the right people, getting the right feedback, working on the right things in your game to improve, making sure your strengths stay strong and improve, the good parts of your game, that you, particularly from the national coach's perspective, that you are doing the right thing in your province on a daily basis are all things that matter. And so it's their duty to go back from the international scene and add value to the provinces and continue to perform well and develop, because it won't stay still for anyone. Joe's very, very driven to make sure he picks players on form, not only in games but also in training and in terms of how they add to the environment in a positive way. So they know the challenge, and it's not just something you say in one meeting. It's an ongoing understanding, that's for sure. And I guess a lot of the nations, international teams in the world would have a similar approach to that. But for us, it's important. We have a small pool of players. As I said earlier, we're not the biggest and most powerful athletes in world rugby, but we have a great S&C system here, strength and conditioning system here. We have a great strength and conditioning coach that works with us, and Jason Cowman, and that keeps us in a good place. And we also have a fairly robust player management system that does look after the welfare of the players. And if all those things can meet in the right place, and people are in all parts of the game are doing the right thing to add to that, then it can keep us in a very competitive place. But if that falls off the edge in any area, you can go backwards quickly. So we're not going to rest on our laurels, that's for sure.
Succession planning, Les, is an important part of any business. This is business we're dealing with here. Who steps up into that 13 jersey from here on in?
Yeah, look, it's a question that's been asked for a while now, and because over the last year or two, it's been known that Drico was coming to the end. But there's a number of names there, and I know Joe has been looking closely at them all for ever since he came into the job, really 9 months ago. It hasn't been something that suddenly is now. Here we go, let's look at a player, and we had a press conference today, and Joe said exactly that. It's a process that's been ongoing. Now we've had Darren Kay from Ulster in with us. He plays regularly 13 for Ulster. Robbie Henshaw's a good young kid who plays 13 and 15 with Connacht. Fergus McFadden, we know, has played there before. Luke Fitzgerald is another guy who has played a little bit there for us in the centres. Jared Payne is another name that's been mentioned. A very good player who's with Ulster, but he doesn't qualify for Ireland until November next year. But he's a quality player, so he'll be in the mix. And we're very open, we're very flexible in our thinking, and the people are doing the right things, and in terms of what we expect of them, they'll get a shot at it. So there's a few people putting their hand up, and that's I guess whatever comes out the end of it all is it will be about who puts their hand up and does the job in the day, and that's what it's about for us. And because they're big shoes to fill. Again, as Joe said, they're not shoes you can fill easily, and people won't fit that same shoe, that's for sure. But someone has to come and bring their own skill sets, and we'll work around what he does bring, and that's our challenge from now.
And your challenge is to continue, I think, to inspire young kids to play the game in Ireland. And I think the way you're playing is truly inspirational. And I see there's a lot I like about your approach. But can I go back to maybe that agonising defeat to the All Blacks? Was that a good thing in the end for you guys?
No, it's never a good thing to lose.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do. In the previous week against Australia, again, Joe spoke in depth about it here in Ireland to the local media. It's sort of a thing we have put to bed in a way. That the November series, we were in our infancy as a coaching group, as a playing group, with Joe as our new leader, and working each other out in terms of what was expected. And we weren't quite on top of everything then, but the one thing that we did realise is that it's a player has to prepare themselves well and bring the right attitude and in terms of their technical preparation and their tactical preparation, but also their meaning and physicality to each game. And we know that it's always there. We just had to make sure we cleared the cobwebs out of the system early and understood what it was expected all around. And I think each game, as individuals and collectively, we've grown. And part of growing means you have some pain, and it was painful to lose to Australia, I tell you, being an Aussie. But it was also very painful to lose to New Zealand in the way we did, and to not get a reward and write history, really. The England test also, a massively big game, it was a great test match, really, one of the best ones I've been involved in, and a 3-point margin. So, those are things you need to learn from, and I think we are taking a little bit from each of those experiences. And I'd like to think, and I think we all do, like to think that the French result was a result of taking some learning from those games. So, there's nothing complete yet, but it's very pleasing. We're very happy that we've been able to nail a championship and win the Six Nations. It is a big deal. It is massive, and we know that. But we also know that it won't guarantee us anything tomorrow in the big competition. So we have to keep our head down and keep looking to improve where we need to in all areas of our rugby. So that those any game that you lose, you've got to take lessons from them, but you also take good lessons from winning, and hopefully we can take some good lessons from the result we got from France as well.
Les, you're a great student of the game. What and there are trends happening Southern Hemisphere, Northern Hemisphere. What are you seeing out of the Southern Hemisphere? But I'm of the opinion that the Northern Hemisphere teams at this point in time are actually the trendsetters in the way the game's played, particularly on these new laws, the scrummaging laws, and also the things in and around the breakdown.
Yeah, look, I think the breakdown. Well, first the scrum. I think the scrum is still the way it's the laws have shifted, and more recently it's gone, to a new set of rules, even with the scrum feed just recently changing. It's a vital component of the game still, and I think you'd like to think that the way that the rules have changed, it makes it easier for referees to understand what's going on and make better decisions. We certainly like better decisions more often, that's for sure, but you take the good with the bad at times, and hopefully through regular feedback to the referees, they understand what is legal and not legal. So those processes will always still be ongoing, but I do think the breakdown is still key in the game on both sides of the game. By that I mean in attack and defence. Being technically proficient and accurate in that area is is going to be a big difference, because you can get blown off the park pretty easily if you're not good. Then I think referees are getting better at understanding, the nature of the breakdown and what is allowed and isn't allowed, really, or who is cheating or not cheating, if you want to call it that. So I think that's becoming a real vital element of the game, because quick ball, as we know, is good ball, and most teams can make it life difficult if you've got slow ball, because defences are getting better and better in that respect. But the game is quickening up, and I think defences are becoming under more and more stress. Therefore, I think the breakdown and attack in particular will become a real important part of the game going forward. I think the other area, Casho, that we might find becomes even more important, because from a defensive perspective, it's hard to defend, is the maul, and if you can construct good maul, I think you add another form of firepower to what you can throw at a team, and it can hurt you. And some of the big teams here are putting that together, that's for sure. So staying in front of the curve there is important as well, I think. But looking at some of the Super 15 games, the speed of ball that they're still generating at the breakdown is critical for them. And if you're going to compete against the big teams, you've got to have a good, smart approach to the breakdown from a defence perspective, but also from an attacking perspective. It's still critical to what you want to do in a game, that's for sure.
But there's still room for your number sevens, isn't there? I mean, Michael Hooper
Absolutely.
has shown that in defence can very quickly turn into attack by winning the ball.
Yeah, look, that's why I think it's the technique, the accuracy of your technique, and particularly by your key guys. But I think across the park, that the worst thing is when you get the player who's not used to the physics of a breakdown can easily come off their feet, fall on the wrong side. Getting those guys understanding the nature of the breakdown in a better fashion, and understand the law there themselves as players, but and to put themselves in a place that they don't show a bad picture to the referee has become more and more important, and you need proficient, good thinkers right across your park. So, it's becoming less and less acceptable for front rowers and tight flyers to just fall on the wrong side or go off their feet easy and have poor technique and come in from the side. They've got to have good footwork. They've got to be able to work and get square in the gate if they're going to enter the breakdown, or have a good decision not to enter breakdown when it's a lost cause. So, the elements and the decision making around that area are becoming, quite important, because they can determine where you end up in the pitch, and if you're on your own trial line a lot, you're going to concede more points, that's for sure.
Well, that's absolutely right. In fact, while you were heading towards Six Nations glory, Kissy, the Brumbies and the Waratahs, a clash you used to look forward to,
Massive.
Were absolutely giving it to each other. There's a bit of bad blood out of the Wallaby Tour, which is a bit of a side argument, but they were physically destroying each other. And the Brumbies, I've got to say, out-coached and out-thought the Waratahs on the night. There's no doubt about that. And in defence, Kissy, I don't know if you had a chance to see any of the game, but Pat McCabe was outstanding in midfield, and they clearly targeted with their aggressive defence Kurtley Beale and smashed him out of the game, and that took that other leverage that they have as that extra playmaker out of the game, and really just jointed the New South Wales attack to such an extent that they ended up losing the game.
Well, I haven't seen the game yet, but I did hear it was a ferocious affair. And
but it was a really good. It wasn't one of those boring ones. It was a really great contest. Yeah. And this is kudos to the Waratahs, Kissy. They still came to play. The ball in the hand by the forwards, just amazing. They've really come along with their skill. It's the best I've seen.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you told me that, because I'll download that game tonight, actually, because it'll be interesting to watch. Because they were great affairs in the past, and it seems like it's another great affair that they've had I think it was down at Brumbyland, wasn't it? Yeah. But I did see some score lines there at one stage that the Waratahs were down 2-0, but they did come back, and which proves that they must be doing something right. And Izzy got to try again. Surprise, surprise. But
Well,
but
they
the
needed to use
Brumbies,
him more, Les, and I think the
yeah,
disruption
yeah,
with Beale didn't help.
yeah. That's what it sounds like to me from what you're saying there, because yeah, it's not as easy to just say, here's the ball, do your stuff. You've got to be able to create the space for them. And it sounds like, from what you're saying, the Brumbies had a good um, defensive structure in terms of putting pressure around that critical area that didn't allow that ball to get to Izzy as much as he would have liked to in the space that he would prefer. But I will download that game, because obviously it's something we all watch as much as we can when it's thrown up on telly here, and we do get quite a few games to keep an eye on the trends on down south, because the other thing I think's happening in World Rugby, that the referees from each major competition are trying to forge more consistency between this hemispheres in some respects. I know the different conditions and different styles do affect that sometimes, but keeping your eye on those sort of things and how the games are refed and how games do happen in the Southern Hemisphere is important for us. So it sounds like that'll be a good one to watch. Sad to see the Tars go down, but it's also good to see good games of rugby. So I'll definitely get that one and watch it.
Yeah, the coaching, Les, was was very good from the Brumbies' point of view.
Best yet, Casher. That was the best by the Brumbies coaching staff in terms of game plan and execution.
And Laurie Fisher's influence on that side was evident there, and I think he took something out of the Munster playbook. There is throw yourself into that breakdown early, get your nose in front, and then just keep on going, just keep working hard, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, look, Laurie's he was here for a couple of years, and you could see he had a heavy influence, positive influence in the players here, and he also would have taken a lot from that style of rugby they did play, and it is exactly that, Casho. You put the right pressure in the right area and have a work ethos that's second to none, and you can shut a talented team out, and they managed to do that a lot here over the last decade or so. So he would have taken a lot back from that. Laurie's a very good coach. I've worked with him with the Australia A team. I've obviously saw him working here, and he visited here about a year ago as well, and we caught up. And he's a great student of the game, and he's doing a great job there. And obviously with Steve Larkham, obviously he must be doing a good job. So it's exciting to see young guys like Steve come through as well, and to have someone like Laurie working with him is only a plus.
Les, also just before Giro chops in here, Gordon Darcy had his beard shaved off. I was just wondering where all the hair is. Perhaps he could send it over here to Maroubra, and we could put it on top of the Bronx melon.
Oh dear. Careful, Kissy.
No, listen,
careful.
I won't throw anything to you.
Because there was a lot of it.
Well, it would have been a huge afro that you would have had in there, mate.
And it was red.
There was a lot of it.
Well, I had the long hair in the 70s, Kissy.
Yeah. But it was funny, he the initial shave on the bus on the way back from the dinner to the hotel at France, they shaved it down here, so he had these big chops, and he looked a little like Wolverine. That sort of image.
The Irish Wolverine.
And then that after drinks that night, before we hopped in the plane to go back to Dublin, he'd taken the whole lot off, and he looked years younger. It was quite interesting. He's been growing it for a while. I was starting to call him Ned Kelly. He looked a little bit like him, but he had a good Six Nations, Das, and he's been very good for us. So he had every right to shave it off and even shave his head if he wanted to and look like Bronk. He decided.
If you wanted to look hard, yeah. Yeah, a great fellow. Obviously, an early guest on RuggaMatrix International. We were just audio only. Les, just one last question. I just wanted to say, what can you sum up the bus trip, the emotions after it, for you personally, Les? I mean, you're an Aussie in Ireland, and you've been there for a few years now, and you've had massive highs before with a Grand Slam, but some big lows as well. And I know that transplanting a family over there as well is also a big deal, and you've seen Sophie grow up into a young woman as well, and You know, it's been a big ride for you, mate. So in 2014, how do you sum it all up?
Yeah, look, it's been a massive ride, really. But over the 6 years now I've been here, guys, it's the first year the Grand Slam was fantastic, but in between there and now, we've had some great moments. The World Cup, the Aussie game, but then to bow out against Wales like we did, we've had some massive moments, but we hadn't won a trophy since. And to tell you the truth, my priority before the game, in terms of who I wanted to win it for, most of all was for Sophie and Lachlan and my wife Julie, because they'd been through a lot with me over here for the last 3 or 4 years when things weren't going as well as you would have liked. It wasn't through lack of effort and trying to get it right, but because we had some good people involved in the team. But it was, to win it for them was important, because they love their time here, and they've got behind the Irish team, and to win something that they could enjoy as much as me was great. But also to be working with a wonderful group of players. With six players, they've won it twice now, and a new group have come in and won it. And obviously for Joe and John Plumtree, 2 new coaches have joined the fold. It was great to win it for them as well. But personally, it was just a real pleasure in being able to see my family and give them a hug and a kiss and see the joy in their face. It was wonderful. And sitting on the bus with my earphones on, listening to a bit of Daft Punk and sucking it all in was certainly a nice feeling before we headed back for our final drinks at the hotel in Paris. So overall, it's very pleasing. But I'm also very feel very privileged to be part of a good group of people and working with Joe and Plum and also previously working with Declan and Gert and co. Though I've had some great experiences here, but to win it a second time is certainly special, I must say. And
it's wonderful how Ireland's accepted you as one of their own, and in a way the RuggaMatrix as well, because it's always huge every time you're on, Les, and there's a lot of excitement when I got through to you and said that you were going to be on this week. So it's a pleasure to have you on, mate, and I've got to say again, absolutely appreciate you making your time available to us. Because you're promoting the game, and it's great access to the Ireland team, and we're always rooting for you, as Barack Obama would have said. And O'Kissy, you just got to get back on the Twitter though. I think your last post was about 2 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, the boys in the team were trying to coax me back into getting going on it, so we'll see where it goes.
You'll overtake Bod within a few weeks.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. The amount of followers he has. He must be in the hundreds of thousands, that boy. But look, overall, it's great to always get a chat when we can, guys. I mean that, and I know there's a lot of people who do tweet with the RuggaMatrix through the RuggaMatrix tweet, and appreciate there's a lot of people in Ireland who do follow the game, and I tell you, through RuggaMatrix, and I tell you, the support here is massive, and it's really appreciated. And it's nice to be on the trophy winning side of things for once. And I'm sure there's a lot of happy people in Ireland at the moment. Particularly, it was on St. Patrick's Day weekend. It's just massive. It was.
They were going past Kissy, just to sideline. They were going past our office at Channel 7, because they do it on the Sunday, more obviously in advance. Yeah. And there was a whole group of girls stopped in one of the flatbed trucks for a while there. It was raining at the time, but it was a bit of a distraction for us at the office on Sunday.
But I tell you, they will get out and celebrate anything, and it was a massive too. And you wouldn't believe in the French the stadium there. There must have been 20,000 Irish people, I think, at least. I don't know what it was, but they travel and they get there and come to support us. It's fantastic. So look, as I said earlier,
great travelling supporters, outstanding.
Yeah, great travelling support, and there's also a lot of people who live around the world who will come and see us whenever we visit. So overall, it's fantastic. But look, it's a win, and we sort of suck it up now. But it's we're trying to get a job done this week so we can move on and get some planning going forward, and that's important for us and important for the boys here.
All right, Les Kiss, a very sober Les Kiss joining us tonight.
Yeah, I've had to give the liver a rest, I think, guys. So
yeah,
it's
we could tell because you didn't get time to do your hair.
What's wrong with me hair?
You got the cocky up there. I didn't tell you at the start, so you've had the whole show. What do you mean? You can see yourself on the screen.
He's been wearing one of those long green hats, Bron.
Hey, our best to the family too, mate. And
Thanks,
and
mate.
it's great to actually give them a rap because they have been absolutely fantastic, and it's been a great journey for you and the Kiss family.
Yeah, and it's not over yet, I hope, guys.
When are you coming back to visit us?
Don't know yet. I'll let you know.
Be great to have you here in the new studio. Look at this, everyone.
Kasha keeps telling me it looks like it's a mixed studio, so I can't wait to get there. It'll be good.
Right,
everything that opens and shuts, Les. So yeah, mate, the king of the gadgets is with us here.
All right, there he is. Les Kiss, thank you for joining us. Six Nations champion for 2014 Ireland. Well done with that win over France. Mark Cashman, before you go.
I just wanted to mention, Bronk, condolences out there to the Oliver family in New Zealand. Frank Oliver, 65, died in his sleep at the family home just a couple of days ago. So, father of Anton and the worker of a farm down there in the South Island of New Zealand. So, condolences to the Oliver family, All Black captain and a good guy.
Yeah, really shocking news, and I absolutely endorse that. Our condolences to the Oliver family, and a very sad news indeed. All right, kiss you over my shoulder. Thank you again, once again, mate. And Mark Cashman, thanks for those kind words. And we will see you again next week. We've got a really great show coming up in a couple of weeks' time. I can't wait for that one. It is a multimedia epic. So that is it. The end of episode 186, our Six Nations wrap up with a bit of Super Rugby in it. We'll be back into Super Rugby next week. We'll give Les Kiss a break, and we'll chime in with him a bit later on when they head down south on their Southern Hemisphere tour of Argentina. That is it for the program. Don't forget, RuggaMatrix America. You can get that from the site and from iTunes. We're on SoundCloud now, and Stitcher as well. We're spreading our wings across the universe, so you can find us in a number of places, as well as video on YouTube and iTunes and other places as well. That is it for the program. Enjoy your week, and if you're celebrating in Ireland, just keep going for the rest of the year. Roll it into Six Nations next year. Until then, we'll see you next week.